Community reinvestment and repair funds is one of the exciting things that Charles County government has as an additional revenue source in 2024 and 2025. I'm so excited to be joined here today with Courtney Davis, who's the Deputy Director from the Maryland Office of Social Equity. Courtney, you've been doing listening sessions all across the state, yes? Mm-hmm. Because when we talk about community reinvestment and repair funds, we're not just talking about something that's happening in Charles County. This is happening across the state of Maryland.
Yes.
Thank you so much for, while you're in Charles County this evening, talking to us a little bit more about these funds and what your office is doing to make sure that they are shared equitably and have a huge component of community engagement. So thanks for being here.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. So Courtney, tell us a little bit about the Maryland Office of Social Equity and your role there.
Yeah, so my name is Courtney. Thank you so much for having me in Charles County. The Maryland Office of Social Equity was created from the Cannabis Reform Act, and we are an independent agency, and we work to increase economic opportunity in the licensed cannabis space here in Maryland. We also are managing the Community Reinvestment and Repair Fund, which we've all determined is a tongue tie and a mouthful to say.
Can we just do CRRF for the rest of this? Let's just do CRRF moving forward.
Yes, and so we administer that fund, which we're here to talk about today. But one of the first things that our office was able to do is help with the first all social equity round for cannabis licensing in the country. And so when we started in July of last year, we supported what is now 205 new conditional licensees and through a lottery process. And so we've been working a lot in collaboration with the Department of Commerce, the Comptroller, and the Maryland Cannabis Administration to make sure that these licensees are able to open up. They have 18 months to open. And so we've been providing technical assistance, programs, and have some funding for them to help them open their businesses. So it's been really exciting process.
Yeah. So kind of step one, if I'm understanding you correctly, for your office was we need to get the vendors in place and make sure they're ready to go, and that's done in an equitable process, yeah? Mm-hmm. And then step two is this CRRF money that we're talking about tonight, yeah?
Yeah.
Awesome. So tell us, some of our viewers and listeners might be familiar with this because we've done a Let's Get Fiscal episode in Charles County. We have a project on our Stay Engaged Charles County platform. But for people who aren't aware about what CRRF is, can you give us a little bit of background about what it is and why your office is so involved in it?
Yeah, the CRRF fund was also established through the Cannabis Reform Act. And it provides funding to local jurisdictions to disperse to community-based organizations for community-based initiatives. And so we worked with, the money is dispersed through the Comptroller's office, but we worked with the judiciary to get all of the charge data for cannabis for the state of Maryland. And we came up with an allocation for each of the counties and the city of Baltimore based on the charge data around in those counties. And so the counties that had more criminalization of marijuana obviously will receive more of the funding because we would consider those communities to be disproportionately impacted areas. And so they were really over-policed. And so this is a reparative fund. Mm-hmm. And so we're really repairing the harms from the war on drugs. So those communities can see some of the benefits from the legal cannabis drug, which had a stigma associated for a very long time and still does.
So I want to paraphrase to make sure I'm hearing this correctly. So the first step was to identify which jurisdictions and within those jurisdictions had the most impact from you said the criminalization and the mm-hmm. over-policing of marijuana use. And then now that cannabis use is legal, that revenue that's coming in from cannabis sales now can go back into those communities that were harmed. Is that an accurate statement?
Yeah.
It's a really interesting process in how we're
mm-hmm.
looking back and trying to make repairs on what was done. So I appreciate your office taking the time to use that data to figure out how we can move forward and do better by communities. So when we talk about this process, am I understanding correctly that one of the ways that you want this funding to go out is with a pretty big amount of education and community engagement, that this shouldn't just be each jurisdiction like Charles County saying, thanks for this revenue, we're going to use it like this. But you want the jurisdictions like Charles County to say, to our community, this is what we want you to know, and also what do you think we should do? Is that accurate?
Yes.
Why is that such an important component? I mean, an important enough component that you're taking the time to do these listening sessions across the state. Why is community engagement and education so important in this process?
I think it's really important in this process because, as I mentioned, this is something that is reparative, and this fund is specific to the disproportionately impacted areas. And so we have, through data, we have been able to identify some areas that were over-policed. And we know what happens with collateral consequences of individuals that have an arrest or a charge on their record. It's like a trickle-down effect. The communities can be under-resourced at times. And so what we really want is to make sure that as this money is coming into the hands of the political jurisdictions, that they're reaching out to their community members and leaders and saying, hey, what do you guys think about this process? We want to engage you. We want to really make sure that this is community driven, as opposed to some conversations that happen where a county will come up with what they think the money should go towards, and community members said, well, we really could have used a library right here.
Right, this is what we wanted versus this is what you gave us.
Right, and so it's also important for the communities to be engaged because they have an opportunity to receive some of these funds. Whatever the mechanism is that the county sets up, if it's a grant program or if it's just direct funding, they should know, hey, Charles County has X amount of dollars. Here's what we're planning on doing with it. What do you guys think? And here's the application process. If it's a grant process, here's how you can apply for those funds. And what we've learned by going around the state is that a lot of folks are hearing about this for the first time.
So it's a beautiful way to both educate that this is available and then also find out where communities want to see this money reinvested.
Right.
Yeah, beautiful. Okay. And how will you measure whether this is successful or not? How will your office be able to go back and say this worked or this didn't work?
Well, we have a lot of metrics that we're working on building out and getting that information out to the counties. We have reporting requirements. One of them is soliciting public input on how the funds should be utilized, and then reporting that out to the General Assembly as well as to the public. And then we also have a report every 2 years on how the money was used, how, we'll be able to look back and see kind of, are we closing the racial wealth gap in these areas? Are they, did the poverty level increase in these areas? And so we're developing a number of database metrics to really make sure that we're able to show that impact with this fund. I mean, the dollars are not going anywhere. We're really hoping that as the industry continues to grow, there will be more money for these counties to invest in long-term projects.
That's beautiful. And I love the intentional use of the word investment and reinvestment, that it is, let's see if this is actually working. Let's see if there's return on that investment. Is the work we're doing having a really positive impact that we can measure? Right. Great. So Courtney, what is one thing that you're in an interesting role right now, because when you come to the listening sessions like the one that's in Charles County tonight, you're speaking to the residents, but you're also engaging with government employees like me, like our fiscal and admin services.
Yes.
When you are talking with the jurisdictions, the employees, the leadership, the elected officials, what's the one thing that you hope that they will learn or take away or implement from this process?
I hope that they will take away that this should be a community-led and community-driven process. I've talked with a lot of counties that say, we think we should do this. And they said, what do you think? I said, well, I'm not here to vote up or down what you guys are spending, how you're spending the money, but have you asked anybody in your community, do they like this project? Has there been an open engagement process? Something else that we learned through this through our town halls is that you've got to reach people in a number of different ways. We have our survey that is now available. And last year, we had a survey as well, and we were able to create the reports. And as I came out to the town halls this year, that people said, nobody asked me any questions. So it's always a challenge that, communities, that counties and government and state agencies as well are up to the challenge to really try and meet people where they are. Yeah. But I would just say that make sure it's a community-led process.
And it's interesting. I think one of the best and also most challenging things about this for at least Charles County is that some of the areas in our community that have been most impacted, like you said, the over-policing, the criminalization, are also the people who are not the most likely to show up at our community events. They're not the most likely to want to engage with county government. So it really puts more work on us that we have to say, we need to meet you where you are. You're not coming to our regular meetings. You're not just showing up and engaging with us for fun. So how are we going to get to you? Yeah. And when you speak to the community members, like when you talk to our Charles County community tonight, what do you hope they take away from this process?
I hope they see this as an opportunity to be in control of some money that can really help turn communities around, or at least get them on the right track. I hope that they feel like, oh my gosh, this is great. I'm going to reach out to my county council and tell them what I think, or I'm going to fill out this survey and really trust in the process that it's going to be inclusive. I would hope that they would stay engaged. You have to, at this point, you've got to do social media, you've got to be on the text, you got to be the email, you've got to, the library, the Starbucks.
All the different places.
All the different places. I hope that they stay encouraged and, stay on top of your elected officials and your county leadership to make sure that your voice is being heard.
That's a beautiful thing, and I agree with you, ditto, ditto, ditto. And I hope that for some of our residents who have been hesitant or unsure of how to engage, at least with Charles County government, that this is a really good opportunity as a place to start with. This feels like a different kind of chance to have their voice heard in the process and then get engaged in more ways. So. Yes. Courtney Davis from the Maryland Office of Social Equity, thank you so much for taking the time to do the listening session here tonight and also sit down with us and give us kind of the background of the great work that you're doing.
Thank you so much.
We hope that you will continue to stay engaged in this process as well as our other engagement opportunities. We know that if you visit our Stay Engaged Charles County page, you'll be able to see this project as well as others and sign up for notifications. There'll be a public hearing on the Community Reinvestment and Repair Funds later in 2025, and we hope that you will give your voice, whether it's through our online survey, showing up for meetings and listening sessions, or engaging with us online. Thanks so much, Charles County. Take care, stay safe, and stay engaged.